Reincarnated as Idiot Mob Arc 1. This novel has 5 arcs. LVL Chapter 0. Hi everyone, sorry for the delay, some Earl stuffs came up, so I was late editing the chapters for the patrons. Even though I was planning to do a double or triple release in the first release. I'll try to do a double release next time so that you guys can get to the good part. Arc 1. The Awakening of the Level Idiot. That is level up. Waking up as a baby and realizing that I was reincarnated into the world of a game I used to play, I fell into despair. Unlike the peaceful modern society, this is a dangerous world where evil spirits of rivers and mountains called monsters are rampant. The top creatures are not human being, but a gigantic dragon that can cover up a city. The place where people live is the living sphere called Nation, created inside gigantic walls. The adventurers, who are working every day outside the wall even while being frightened and risking their lives to bring back resources from outside the wall with the magic technology that developed instead of science, support that livelihood. Although it is a game world, a peace-loving and weak idiot who lived a life unrelated to conflict like me is born in such an eat or be eaten world. Is something ridiculous like this real? I wonder. Someday I will also have to fight monsters with a sword in my hand. When I thought so, the values I had cultivated in my previous life only caused me distress. However, there are gods in this world as well. I noticed that fact when I was 7. In any case, I don't want to die. With that in mind, I practice swinging using a wooden sword to improve my weapon proficiency even by a little. A bubble-like +1 appear then disappear in my field of view. The identity of the thing that suddenly appear every time I swing my sword is experience point, and I hear a fanfare in a short 1 hour. Yes, I have leveled up. I dance like crazy. I learned that this world, that I thought was like hell, is actually like paradise. If I accumulate experience points, my level will go up. There is nothing more wonderful than this other than being alive. Unlike the real world where I lived before I was reincarnated, effort is managed by a numerical value called experience point here, and when it exceeds a certain level, a result called level up will appear. That's what is promised in this world. Even if there is a difference in the rate of increase and upper limit due to talent, I'm guaranteed to grow if I continue to make efforts, and I can be aware of it thanks to the fanfare that echoes in my brain. The higher the number of acquired experience points that emerges in my field of vision, means the more efficient my effort is. Even the next growth goal is clearly shown as the necessary experience points that appears at the edge of my field of vision. Is such a wonderful thing real? I wonder. Is such a wonderful world real? I wonder. This world where your efforts are not useless, where the objective fact, level, is shown and where you can express your feelings fully. Isn't it a world that every gamer wished for? I'm here, Valhalla, or maybe Shangri-La. My unstoppable, overflooding joy turned into an unstoppable laughter and echoes in the blue sky. On that day, I kept laughing as I continued to repeat practice swinging and then was dragged to the church by my parents who doubted my sanity. LVL Chapter 1 will release another chapter later. Sakurai Toru is a mob character. This game-based world can be called high fantasy in terms of genre. The outside of the outer wall is a world of survival of the fittest full of monsters outside of human intellect. But the setting in the inside is fundamentally a worldview that mixes magic with a slightly old modern-era society. The protagonist, player, enrolls in the National Adventurer Academy with the aim of becoming an adventurer who defeats monsters and brings back resources to protect the living area of humankind. Getting closer with his comrades, beating up bad guys, and preventing evil schemes. It has such a common story. Although such mainstream worldview and story weren't explosively popular, it became a hit in the customer base who are looking the good old, of which myself included. So, if you think that I, who was reincarnated into such a world, is in a special position, you are totally wrong. I was born in a very ordinary family. Even the name Sakurai Toru isn't the least bit rare. In addition, there is none among the original work's characters or the famous and influential characters have the surname of Sakurai, so it is safe to say that I'm a mob character both in name and reality. In the long run, I'll ignore the development of the original work and diligently work hard at leveling. World crisis, national crisis, and heroine's crisis, I'll ignore them all. If I leave those kinds of things to the lot of the original work, it will probably work out somehow. Even if I have the memories of my previous life, I don't think of myself as a special existence. In the first place, I was a bottom rung of the society pathetic bastard who lived in a world without a conflict. It's clear as day that if I butt in those matters, I would only get hurt, and my heart is already set on leveling. I'm going to borrow some items for that. But since they are mostly things for the end contents, they won't affect the development of the original work. I'm going to raise my level, so I'll leave the dangerous things to you, ladies and gentlemen. My heart feels light and refreshed. It's the best. Generally, I won't interfere with the story as long as it is heading toward the happy ending, and not toward game over. If I confirmed that it is progressing as it should, it would be fine to leave it alone and live as I pleased. I'd be happy to be involved with beautiful girls like the heroines, but I don't know how to treat them anyway. I would only end up being hated and shunned. Do you foolishly think that someone unpopular in the real world would become popular once he is reborn? In the first place, I will also spend my time for self-improvement on leveling, so there's no way such a guy would be popular. Being armed with a good theoretical argument complete, my self-defense is perfect even in solitude. I'm full of energy today and my body is light too. I'll raise my level. You hear? With such a mood, I rush out of my house with a wooden sword in my hand today too. My destination is a bit far riverside. In this world, if you can do an activity with the purpose of training in mind, you will get experience points. What a wonderful world. For example, just by jogging with the intention of increasing stamina, you will get experience points for each step. But if you have the intention of getting to your destination, even if you sprint with all your might, you will not get even a fragment of experience point. In other words, if you keep in mind the purpose of to train yourself in all your actions, you will get experience points just by living. What happens when you accumulate experience points? You don't know. You level up. Now then, what happens when you level up? Let me tell you. You can continue to earn experience points. It's the best. While muttering so intermittently, I'm thinking of giving the system of this world a topping of fresh cream to add its artistic value and the best of the best award. I don't know what I'm saying anymore, but in short, leveling is the best. Earn experience points, raise your level, and if you level up, you can enjoy earning experience points toward the next goal. If something like a level cap doesn't exist, it will be an endless loop like the infinite circle of Ouroboros. For me, who can enjoy the work of leveling itself, it's like continuously enjoying myself. I'm thinking of going to get an item that can removes the upper limit of your level. But I'm still not strong enough now. The upper limit of my level that I can see at present is 50, and I, who have just started earning experience points, have just reached level 5. Every time it goes up by 1, the required experience points increase like crazy. So at this rate, I will hit the counter stop in about 8 years later when it's time for the Academy's enrollment. I can only obtain the first level upper limit release item by belonging to the Academy, so it would be reasonable as my goal for the time being. Damn it, if I was aware of it when I was about 3 years old, I wouldn't have lost 4 years worth of exp. With such regret as a spring, I continue to swing my wooden sword today as well. LVL Chapter 2. Here's the bonus chapter. Uncle Bonus, whose name I don't even know. 4 years have passed, and nowadays I can finally drown out the loss of experience points of when I didn't realize the splendor of this world when I was 3 years old. As I'm over 10 years old now, I evolved from the wooden sword to a rusty common sword, so my leveling had evolved further. By the way, I'm level 23 now. These days, I worked hard on leveling as well as studying and exercising. My parents also yielded to the leveling presentations I had given many times, and recently, the number of times they brought me to counseling has decreased. It could be said that we have a reasonably good relationship. Oh, you, boy. Seems like you're at it again today. Ugh, that voice, Uncle Bonus. Can you change that nickname somehow? Even if I remember your name, I won't get experience points anyway. Half of that is a joke though. As I continued leveling for 4 years, I was able to make some whimsical acquaintances who were interested in it, and this Uncle Bonus who called out to me is one of them. I could encounter this person with a random probability once a month. Uncle Bonus with an old-fashioned sword on his waist seems to be pursuing swordsmanship. He corrected my mistakes and thus improved my efficiency in getting experience points, and occasionally he would ask me, "Can you do this?" and taught me various skills. He is a wonderful personage. In this game, there are 3 main ways to learn a skill. The first is automatic acquisition by leveling up. There are many general-purpose skills that raise the basic abilities of the character in this way. The second is the acquisition by using items such as skill books and secret books. There are many weapon types related skills such as sword skills and axe skills in this way. And the last is acquisition by learning from NPC characters by instructions, succession events, and the likes. There are a wide variety of skills that can be obtained in this way, and even if you are taught by the same character, the skill that you can acquire will change depending on the degree of friendship and the content of the event. Normally, acquisition at the third case doesn't occur unless the required status and weapon proficiency exceed a certain line and the interaction with the target character is deep. Moreover, many of them have secret conditions basically. Moreover, since there are wide range of skills such as hot spring appraisal skill and skills that are unknown where to use, it can be said that it is essential to memorize who will teach you what skills under what conditions when you clear the game. On the contrary, although the encounter rate with this Uncle Bonus is random, if I encounter him, there is a high probability that he will teach me some sort of skill. Today is, well, do you have anything you want to learn? How to increase the efficiency of earning experience points or how to correct the status increase when you level up? I've said it every time, but I don't really understand things like experience point, level, nor the words of young people. For now, I'll teach you one of the ways of walking. If it's you, you can learn it, I guess. Uncle Bonuses. Or rather, the drawback of humankind of this world is that experience points aren't reflected in their field of vision. All the residents of the game world didn't go through tutorial after all, and they didn't read the attached manual, so they could hardly understand the game terminology. They are beyond help. However, I don't get angry at such a thing. After all, this Uncle Bonus is so useful to the degree that it covers such a drawback. After all, when I first started swinging, I could only get +1 experience point, but now that I have been instructed, I can get +25 experience points with a single swing. 25 times, 25 times. Even the paid items in online games wouldn't have such an illegal amplification. On top of that, he even taught me skills, so having him is like having an unrivaled cheat. Although I wondered if our encounter would be stopped or reduced by the world, I didn't feel that at all. Admin World, do your job. No, you don't have to do it after all. I wish you let me meet him every day. Actually, I would like to call him Uncle Cheat. But since the word cheat has a negative connotation, I call him Uncle Bonus as everyone is familiar with it as well. Without the cooperation of the Uncle Bonus, it would not have been possible for me to quickly meet the required experience points that increase like crazy every time I level up. Speaking of which, I don't remember seeing this person in the original game. If he were there, the game balance would collapse and he would be deleted, I guess. Such an idea came to my mind, but I have no intention of complaining as long as I'm benefiting from it. Or rather, anything that is useful for leveling is good. Uncle Bonus, we have no time to waste. So hurry up, Uncle Bonus. Please. Yes, there's no hurry. You are really an energetic one, aren't you? It was a coincidence that Uncle Bonus, Sanuki Shoichiro, caught sight of Sakurai Toru. From his perspective, who has his own personal view regarding swordsmanship, it was immediately apparent that Sakurai's practice swinging was too unshapely and it was self-taught. On top of that, what caught his eye was that Sakurai was persistently swinging his wooden sword as if it was fun. Humankind could only live inside the outer wall, and the reason why people picked up arms was mostly in order to live. One day, there was a mass outbreak of monsters invading the inside of the wall. Shoichiro's parents, who were adventurers, fought them, becoming the shield for the people, and lost their lives. Losing his family, Shoichiro was taken to an institution and he picked up the sword to be able to earn a living in the future. He sure seems to enjoy it. Shoichiro suddenly saw Sakurai's figure, and wondered if he had found joy in swinging his sword. He looked at the figure that kept swinging with a smile, and he concluded that he had no such a feeling. Shoichiro's sword was for living, and was only a means for enriching his life. The adventurers he had met so far definitely came to the same conclusion. Perhaps that was exactly why. The figure of Sakurai, who was joyfully swinging his sword, one swing after another with a smile floating on his face, seemed to have a passion that Shoichiro couldn't get. People had a longing for something they couldn't have, and Shoichiro also felt that Sakurai's figure was very precious. "That's not how you do it, boy." "Who are you?" "I'm an adventurer who happened to pass by." Your sword is self-taught, right?" "If you keep swinging much like that, a strange habit would be ingrained in your body, you know." When he noticed it, Shoichiro was talking to Sakurai. He was impressed at Sakurai, who listened very seriously and with great interest to the advice that he spat out so smoothly that it surprised himself. This was the first encounter between Shoichiro and Sakurai. And when he took occasional holiday once a month, Shoichiro's feet began turning toward the riverbed. Shoichiro decided to teach him his own skills as their interaction deepened. Shoichiro was affected by the passion of the boy, and he thought, let's teach him, even though he kept refusing the countless people who begged to be his disciple. And he was embarrassed to admit that he did it because he wanted to leave something of him in the boy's sword. Sakurai was clumsy, but he probably had been building up his foundation all this time. He learned the techniques taught by Shoichiro one after another, and within a month he had mastered enough to put them into practice. Shoichiro was always surprised at his speed of understanding. However, on the other hand, he was also aware of Sakurai's lack of talent because his growth slowed down as soon as he crossed a certain line. "I have to say, it's mediocre. I don't think he has the capacity to achieve greatness." But nevertheless, Shoichiro decided to let this boy, who he met coincidentally, to inherit his skills. Watching that figure swinging to enjoy the techniques he had learned to live again and again had become a newfound pleasure of the Sword Saint Sanuki Shoichiro. LVL Chapter 3, Spring, a 13 years old's miscalculation. Since my level hit counter stop earlier than I expected, I'll illegally invade the dungeon. Damn it, I miscalculated how much time I could get by ditching human relationships. Spring of my 13 years old. About 2 years before the Adventurer Academy enrollment. I have finally reached my level upper limit, level 50. Even if I gain experience points beyond this, they will only potentially accumulate until my level upper limit is released, and no change will occur on the surface. I feel like I will go crazy every time I see the required experience points at the edge of my field of vision hidden by straight lines such as apostrophe. Therefore, I moved up my plan and decided to invade the first layer of the Academy Dungeon, also known as the Tutorial Dungeon, which is not allowed to enter unless you are a student enrolled in the Academy and have taken a designated class. Of course, at present, I don't belong to the Academy, so it will be an illegal invasion, but it is so that I can continue leveling, so there's no other way. I don't think I can get permission if I ask anyway. And if I do get it, I can only say that there is a problem with their security system. So, on the day I decided that there's no time like the present, I set my feet in the Adventurer Academy to illegally invade the dungeon. I openly infiltrate in as a visitor, and after finishing the procedure to leave, I enter an empty room from the outer wall of the Academy building, cover myself with a cardboard, and take a nap. After that, I pay attention to the patrol route of the guards at the night duty. If I go through the secret path that originally can only be entered after clearing the dungeon, I will arrive inside the Academy dungeon. Even though it was impassable because of the system in the game era, I'm able to pass it without worry because it is a physically existing path in this world. How convenient. Let's use it frequently in the future. The secret path goes directly to the second layer of the dungeon, so I go up while cutting down the monsters on the way. It seems that the old-fashioned sword that Uncle Bonus gave me after he said it seems there's nothing I can teach you anymore about a year ago is a pretty sharp sword. It displays a far better performance than the ones sold around here. After that, Uncle Bonus disappeared, so being handed this sword must be the condition for the end of the event. Even though the event is over, Uncle Bonus must be alive somewhere in this world, so I hope he's doing well. I thought that he would come back as usual even after he gave me the sword, so I casually said, "Then, see you next time," so I would like to properly convey my gratitude the next we meet. While I'm thinking about that, I reach the back of the boss room in the first floor. Backstab is allowed as long as you can kill the enemy. Gudja. I gently open the door and attack the floor boss, goblin leader from behind. I stab it repeatedly and get rid of it, even while I grin at the number of + 1300 that appears in my field of vision after defeating it. The fact that the number written in the required experience points entry does not change at all makes me dejected. Setting up a limit to level is a bad culture. It must be destroyed. If I'm not mistaken, it's here. After I grope around Peter, a part of the boss room, I find a slight unevenness. In fact, with a high-level climbing skill, you can climb to above the ceiling of this boss room with this unevenness as a starting point. There is a valuable item called the Star Seed above the ceiling that can increase your level upper limit by +10, and my goal this time is to obtain it. However, there is one problem here. I don't have the climbing skill. Climbing skill is a skill that can only be acquired after reaching the middle stage of the story, and the skill level will not rise unless you equip an item called Climbing Set and climb some mountains. Other than using it to obtain the Star Seed here, this skill has no other special use, so going out of my way to laboriously obtain this skill and reach its required level is not worth it. Or rather, it's a worthless skill. Therefore, I can't climb the wall now because I don't have climbing skill. And if I can't climb the wall, I can't reach the entrance leading to above the ceiling. So I'll take another way. Since the entrance is there, according to the distance. It's the, Do you remember the secret path to the dungeon? Unlike in the game, even if I don't fulfill the flags nor their conditions, I can interfere with this world as long as it physically exists. And if I can physically interfere, I don't have to get the troublesome thing called climbing skill. I take out a small bottle of skull and crossbones I borrowed from the science room of the academy, the soil around the place, and Slime's body fluid with potato starch and adhesive. Do you know, Johnny? If you mix these in a metal bowl, it will turn into an extremely curious sticky bomb. Are you for real, Miguel? That's no longer just an illegal invasion. No worries, it is for leveling, so it can't be helped. Being armed with a good theoretical argument complete. Alright, here we go. Soya. I throw it with a poi, and it sticks with a Peter. Then the improvised bomb explodes with a bang. What fall from the blasted open hole is a treasure chest that has been preserved. With magic, I ignore the keyhole and pierce the broken side with a sword, and find the Star Seed. I finally got it. Oops. I have to collect the remains of the improvised bomb and quickly escape. I can only happily use the Star Seed after I get home. You must not forget that you are illegally infiltrating until you get back home, me. So, I clean up quickly, and once again, I beat up the goblin leader who was reborn in the meantime and head home. On the way back, the guards are flurried for some reason, so I can easily evade the guards' watch. I think it's better if they don't leave their post easily considering this world doesn't have the technology called surveillance camera, but this time it's convenient for me, so let's not say unnecessary things. In that way, my 13 years old spring dungeon exploration comes to a close safely, and I succeeded in releasing my level upper limit using the Star Seed. I level up due to the accumulated experience points. LVL Chapter 4. Big thanks to Necrons for the pledge. There is no entrance ceremony. 2 years have passed since the exciting dungeon exploration. I finally turned 15 years old and decided to enroll in the Adventurer Academy. I cried at my parents' house and moved to the student dormitory in the academy. I am very grateful for the existence of my parents. They are lovable people who cooked and did the housework while I was leveling. I'm grateful that they loved and raised me without abandoning me. Who thinks this kind of thing spontaneously? Based on the fact that my father went around to various places asking if there's a way to hasten my enrollment even by a minute or by a second, and that my mother was raising money so that they could move while I away, I'm thinking of doing filial piety properly someday. Therefore, I will definitely return home, so please be prepared and wait. With memories of such a wonderful family in mind, I ignore the entrance ceremony with all my might and invade the academy dungeon, and is secured by the members of the disciplinary committee, who are supervising the academy. It seems because I had slipped through many times, even they have learned and devised countermeasures from my behavioral pattern. Even so, to abandon the security of the entrance ceremony and put all the personnel inside the dungeon, I think there's something wrong with their heads. How dare you guys ganging up on me and cornering me with magic? Are you guys mountain bandits? What do you think people are? I'm innocent. Call my lawyer. You don't have that right. Even while I protest against the violation of human rights until I feel refreshed, they carry me in a state where my hands and my feet are tied to a pole. Suddenly, I notice that this posture is suitable for training my semicircular canals. See, when my body swings, I begin earning some experience points. Oh, new training found. For now, let's try it. Be quiet, noisy. I'm busy right now. Just shut up and carry me. Why are you? I don't want to hear that from you. Hey, why are you swinging with such a smile? Scary. You ho ho ho. Crap, it's getting more fun. If I do my best, won't I be able to do one rotation? Hey, carry me properly, K? What's with this guy? He's insane. Damn it, let's bring him to the head of the discipline committee chairman quickly. I feel like I'm going to be crazy to not understand this fun. This is why people who can't see the experience point are no good. However, I have no time to mind you guys. Now that I have finally found a way to raise the level of my semicircular canals, I have to raise its level as much as possible before reaching the student guidance room. No, what the heck is the level of the semicircular canals? This is the first time I heard such words. But level is level. If it exists, you should raise it. Oosh, Daddy, I'm going to rotate twice next. Here I go, round and round. While I'm leveling in that way, I'm thrown into the student guidance room. To do such a heartless thing when someone is leveling happily, I want to see the faces of their parents. You are the rumored boy, huh? When I turn to the owner of the voice, there is a female student there. She wears a hairband with white floral decoration on top of her shoulder-length bob-cut black hair, and she has a pair of large eyes that shine dignifiedly on her lovely face. If I have to say, rather than beautiful, she is cute, and rather than a beautiful woman, she is more like a beautiful girl. And contrary to her appearance, she is currently pointing a sharp gaze at me. A blue ribbon is wrapped below her breasts, that are pushing up her pure white uniform from inside, that color indicating that she is an upperclassman at the Adventurer Academy. My name is Higaki Ao. I'm the chairman of this academy's disciplinary committee. Ao-chan. You are being over-familiar. Yes. I correct my posture and sit upright on the floor. As expected, I'm not going to play around in front of an original work character. If I don't take it seriously, I don't know what I'll be dragged into. The chairman of the disciplinary committee, Higaki Ao. One of the heroines who appeared in the original game, a female swordsman who received a training from the dead legendary personage called the Sword Saint. Although she looks cute, her behavior is like a dignified beauty. She is a female student who has the charm in that gap, which she is seemingly trying to overstretching herself. As a character, when she met the original work protagonist, although she had received training from the Sword Saint, there are only few skills that she could inherit. While pursuing that reason, she trained to learn his final secret technique, Glorious Fire Decapitation, from the memoirs he left behind. In the process, she acted as a disciplinary committee member to browse the academy's materials related to the Sword Saint, and as a result, she brilliantly climbed up to be the chairman. So was her background. She is such a stoic girl, but she is a heroine after all. Recalling the reason why she picked up the sword while interacting with the protagonist, instead of mastering the Sword Saint's technique, She devised the glorious flower decapitation as her own technique, and that's how she embraced her love for the protagonist who became the impetus that led to that. Well, following the flow of mainstream development, they officially became comrades. To sum up, that means, I'm not particularly interested in her because she is a person who only has events that are not related to leveling. I'm sorry, if it was before I knew the existence of level, it might be possible. But now I don't feel like to go out with you. It seems that you are good at stroking people's nerves. However, to protect the order of the academy, I will no longer tolerate your crimes. Yes, illegal invasion to the dungeon, theft from the training room, abandoning your obligation to report of the finding of the undiscovered area due to the use of explosives in the dungeon. If I state the other ones, there will be no end to it. I see. That means she collected my piled up usual deeds and turned them into fangs to bite me. In that case, I should resign to my fate like a gracious gentleman should. I straighten my back, stare at Higaki-san firmly, and declare with a very serious voice, I admit the illegal invasion, but do you have evidence for the other ones? Why you? Even though I am a gentleman, I'm the triple-tongued British gentleman one. There's no way I'm going to step on the charges head-on. I admit the illegal invasion. I was caught red-handed, so I won't object at all. However, things like stealing from the training room or explosives or the likes, I totally deny them. You think I will let such things pass? Then why did the disciplinary committee continue to take the means of capturing me until now? If there is evidence proving that what everything Higaki-san said is true, then you should have reported to the Night Order police so that I could easily be caught and raised my level at the reform school. However, the fact you didn't do that meant that you had no other means than capturing me red-handed, right? Do you lot have the evidence of the all kinds of deeds I did? I don't have the right to say it, but illegal invasion, theft and explosion are all legitimate crimes. If they have the evidence, the right thing to do is to report it to the Night Order, and let them take care of me. However, since the first illegal invasion, I had never been caught or even paid close attention to until this day. I hadn't been tracked until I got home, and I was careful not to leave any evidence in the first place. This is also a simple application of the way of walking I learned from Uncle Bonus. In a world where there are no surveillance cameras, acquiring a movement technique that can also trick people's gaze is convenient. I'd be troubled if you are underestimating us. We do have the evidence. However, it'd be inconvenient for us if the Night Order get involved in the issue. That's why we want to settle it quietly. I see. In other words, Higaki-san is shelving the evidence to prevent the Night Order from intervening in this case. What? That's foolish. It's something you can understand it just with a little thought, isn't it? I remembered that recently, I hosted the trap system with me, in which I blocked enemy spawn points in the third layer with earth and sand, adjusting the spawn position and speed of the monsters, and killed the spawned enemies in order from the front. It would not be an exaggeration to say that the criminal, is a dangerous individual based on what he has done so far. It is no wonder that some people judge that the outwitted disciplinary committee members can no longer solve the problem. Under such circumstances, it's foolish of them if they continue to thinking of capturing the criminal by themselves obstinately. No doubt, there must be some voice raised wishing for the Night Order to intervene. However, seeing that only the disciplinary committee members participating in the securing operation this time, it appears that the Night Order isn't involved. In that case, there must have been a person who stopped the rising voice, and that would be none other than the chairman of the disciplinary committee who has the final say on the activity. If there is evidence, it is strange that you didn't hand it over to the Night Order. Since there is none, you could only catch the criminal red-handed. On top of that, since you're saying that there is evidence, I can't help but think that Higaki-san didn't report to the Night Order because of personal reason on top of accusing me as the criminal for some reason I don't know. Why would I do such a thing? Well, that's why I said I don't know. Just that. Well, that's right. While saying that, I stand up, step closer to Higaki-san, focus on her eyes, so that I don't miss the emotions rooted deep in them, and say firmly, I understand the reason why I'm disliked. but I really don't understand the reason why I'm being grudged. Can you say it directly to me? From that time when I was taken to this room and met her eyes, I kept wondering why she kept looking at me with a gaze filled with grudge. We continued to stare at each other's eyes for a while, as if she finally made up her mind, and as if to cool the heat that had accumulated in her, she exhales a long, thin breath from her red lips and walks towards her door. Then, after peeking into the corridor and confirmed that there is no one around 2 to 3 times, as if not to let me escape. No, as if not to let anyone get in the way, she locks the door. Grudge, huh? That's right. That's probably why I want to meet you even through unjustifiable means. The mask of the disciplinary committee member is taken off, and the true feelings of an individual named Higakiao is turned to me. I'm delighted that the talk deviated from the pursuit of my crime to thorough investigation of her personal reason. 1. I think it's referring to this. It's in Japanese though. LVL Chapter 5. Shout out to Jared Meyer for becoming my patron. Personal grudges and selfish desires. There are different types of resentment, feeling angry and hatred after receiving unforgivable treatment. Enmity. Compared to others, I feel dissatisfied, not unsatisfied. The sort of unjustified resentment through misunderstanding. Because I had no contact with Higakiao, there should be nothing that could have made her grudged me. In that case, I think this is a type of unjustified resentment through a misunderstanding. But even when I think about it seriously, there's no source that come to mind. In the first place, I had thrown away human relationships and continued to raise my level. So, I don't remember causing any inconvenience to anyone, except to my parents. Does that mean it has something to do with my relationship with my parents? No, but however, is that possible? Higaki-san. What? Are we actually lifelong separated siblings? Huh? Do you have a complaint for me, your younger brother? Honestly, that's disgusting. Right, you're gonna be put off if you have a sibling like me. Then, I really don't know. Why are you grudging me? Have we met somewhere before? We have never met in person. I only know you one-sidedly. One-sidedly? That sword. Higaki-san says so and points to the sword I'm carrying on my waist. I don't know what the old-fashioned sword I got from Uncle Bonus has to do with it, so I tilt my neck. But she ignores me and begins to spin her words as if confessing. That sword is the sword of my teacher and the person I admired. Teacher? Admired. The sword Saint Shoichiro Sanuki. When I saw the sword swing of that person, I was fascinated, and I reached out. Higakiao narrates. In a way, it's shocking. When I was little, I went out of the wall casually. I, who didn't really understand what the outside was like, was naturally attacked by a monster. I ran away with my friends, who had sneaked out along with me. After that we were injured and collapsed one by one. I was saved by teacher Sanuki. Her gaze is directed toward the ceiling. However, her eyes are directed towards the memory of the past, toward that moment that was burned into her mind. Clear, beautiful, that one sword stroke that couldn't be put into words, pierced through my fear and took my heart away. It was beautiful. So beautiful. The voice that leaked out from her moist lips and slightly red cheeks enters my ears with a sweet, melting passion. She shows the face of a woman that cannot be imagined from her dignified appearance until now, and as if to suppress the seething passion, she begins to hug herself. Having seen the sword saint, I reached out to that area and picked up the sword. Over and over again, I begged teacher and unreasonably press him to take me as his disciple. Those days were so exciting. Every time I swung my sword, every time I learned his technique, my heart throbbed at the fact that I was even one step closer to that swordsmanship I longed for. But, she pauses her words and with a glare, she turns her gaze at me. The passion of hers, who have been showing the face of a woman until just now, cools down in an instant. Being glared by that sharp gaze, I feel a chill as if the room temperature dropped for some reason. One day, I found your existence. I found that I'm not the first disciple, but the second. He said you're far more talented than him, so don't mind it. I taught the basics to that boy just as a sort of enjoyment, but for me, that's not something I can ignore. Not the first, but the second. Even though I bowed my head many times, teacher taught his technique to that someone voluntarily. Envious, envious, and hateful. I wanted to be the first, even though I should have been that person's first disciple. But you made me fall to be the second. You appear at the end of the path that I followed to that person's back. Seeing the scars on the wall in the dungeon, I suspected that someone is a fellow student, and I was convinced when I saw the sword on your waist. You robbed me of that person's first. How could I not resent you? Who can blame me for being overwhelmed by her sudden change and her devilish expression, I wonder? Certainly. There is an episode in the original work story where she was fascinated by the Sword Saint's sword stroke and picked up the sword. But as she wielded the sword, she began to want to be able to help someone, just as the Sword Saint helped her. There should be such a monologue in the original work story. For that reason, she sought power and worked as a disciplinary committee member, but she gradually prioritized rule over someone. Higakiao of the original story should came to realize that as she interacted with the protagonist. However, the her before me is worse no matter how I see her, to the extent that I doubt her sanity. How does Higakiao, whose actions and words are too different from the original, take the appearance of mine, whose eyes are darting around? I wonder. This time, she speaks with a bitter smile. I heard you didn't even remember teacher's name. On the contrary, you gave him a nickname. So, you probably don't know me, and I think your mind probably can't keep up being faced with these unseemly circumstances of mine. This is a problem from my egoism that knows no bounds. I'm truly sorry for having you involved in it. But... So she paused. That sword is mine. At that moment, I reach for my sword, but she sneaks into my bosom faster than that. I quickly change my hand that reach out to the handle to a fist, swing it, and throw it into her. However, there is no figure of her at the end of my fist. Having pulled the scabbard along with its sword from my waist, she turns and makes her way to my back quickly. The impact that exploded at the back of my head makes me let go of my consciousness. I woke up in a room of the hospital linked to the academy. It was explained to me that I was hit on the head many times with a considerable force, so a part of my skull cracked, and that even with healing magic, I have to be on bed for several days. Regarding the treatment cost, it seems that I'll be able to cover it somehow by selling the monster materials that I obtained when I was leveling in the dungeon, and in addition, it seems that a part of the disciplinary committee's budget will be deducted to be a subsidy for me. To me, it is clearly a hush money, and I received an explanation. The case of my illegal invasion and various other crimes was settled in the form of a toleration due to the excessive acts of the disciplinary committee side. After I wake up, a person like an advisor came to apologize, but of course Higakiao's figure wasn't there and my feelings didn't clear up. Uncle Bonus is that Sword Saint Shoichiro Sanuki, and because I was involved with him without knowing it, it became a source that aggravated Higakiao. I don't know how the former looks, so it would be impossible for me to recognize him whose existence were only talked about in the original work. In the latter's case, it was unintentional. There's no way I'd know things would turn out like that. No matter how many times I thought about it, I couldn't find my own fault. Nothing came to mind. My anger arose at the unreasonable treatment. What the hell did I do? I was only leveling alone diligently. Certainly, I might have caused trouble for other people. If this treatment was done as an official affair, I would still accept it. However, that woman used official affair to attack me with private treason and rob me of my sword. Then after that she didn't stop and she kept beating me. It's unreasonable. Too unreasonable, right? However, even in such an unreasonable situation, the point that I truly can't forgive is, she stole my sword. Honestly, I don't have much feelings for that sword. It is true that the sword that uncle gave me was an item that I had a long relationship with, and I prefer to use it because it had the best performance among the weapons I could get at the moment. However, after all, an item is an item, and I was fully prepared to change it to a better weapon in the future. I didn't throw it away because it was a gift, and I got the impression that it was a unique item that could only be used in the early stages. But, however, to steal the item that someone got directly, that shitty bitch, you damn asshole. There was no anti-personnel system in the game, let alone a park element. She's really unreasonable, that shitty bitch. That's my item. Lowly loser like you who can't even trigger her event by herself, Never mind falling for you, even just calling you is gross, you shameless. If the original work, she, unreasonably, came and involved me, no problem. I will do whatever I want. Venting my anger on the bed, I make a ruckus clamor. Because of that, the gauge reacts and the doctor and the others rush in, and I finally regain my composure. Bashing the head of an unconscious person, there must be some screws loose in her head. LVL Chapter 6. Massive thanks to Katrina and Jackson Davis for becoming my patrons. And since the patron count goal has been reached, this is the bonus chapter. In other words, I just have to raise my level. My level is 57. Moreover, the upper limit has risen to 80. Do you understand what this means? I want you to understand that level 57 is the average character's level. When you passed the turning point in the middle stage of the original game. In the original game, the level of Higaki Ao, who officially joined around August, is 40. So at least I will definitely not lose in terms of level at this time. So why did I lose to her so easily if I didn't lose in terms of level? If I lost in terms of status, I wouldn't have been able to react, so that shouldn't be the case. I was able to respond, and I was well aware of her movements. In terms of basic strength, I was undoubtedly equal or stronger than her. In that case, isn't it natural to think that the cause of my defeat is experience? I tried to pull out my sword against the attacking opponent normally. Since she slipped into my bosom, I tried to drive her away with my hand. What if I moved my legs and jumped away at that time? Whether there was a wall or a window, if I wanted to, I would be able to break through them and I wouldn't lose that badly, right? If I could make such judgment, wouldn't I be able to escape or resist? I can beat monsters that have fixed motion pattern like in the game one-sidedly. But people are not like that. Apparently, this world adopted action battle instead of turn-based battle like in the original work. Thus, it seems that it had transformed from a mere RPG to an action RPG. In that case, you should have told me sooner. We'll know next time, world. However, its root is still RPG after all. After a few action elements have been added, in the end, status and information will make a difference. Then what I should do is the same. All I have to do is utilize all the information I have and continue to raise my level with all my might. If she thinks that a typical lower-class citizen with low humanity like me will only cry and fall asleep, I'll teach her that she's wrong. There are quite a few people I made angry, but you are the first person who made me angry. I will have you take this responsibility properly. A few days after making a calculation in my head, and a week after leaving the hospital, I set my feet in the Adventurer Guild and get onto the lounge which is only allowed for some higher-ranked adventurers alone. In defiance of the surroundings' gazes, I stand in front of my target while ignoring the adventurer who came to ascertain my purpose. The person sitting on a leather sofa, which is releasing an exaggerated luster, sees the sword on my waist, drinks the alcohol he has in his hand, and exhale a bit of breath that have a trace of liquor smell. Even while feeling fresh, seeing a new side of the person that I haven't seen until now, I point out only my own circumstances and business. I found you, Uncle Bonus. I wanna go leveling for a bit, so can you accompany me until I die? The man called the Sword Saint Sanuki Shoichiro stands up with a smile. Without hesitation, I kick the table before him, robbing him of his sight, and swing my sword. The Sword Saint, who slipped through the kicked table and got into my bosom, repels my blade with his fist, grabs my neck with one hand and throw me out of the window. Gar! After I was thrown diagonally upward from the window, I immediately cross my arms, and receive an impact so strong that I wonder if I was hit by a car. It was from the flying kick of Uncle who chased me and jumped out of the window. I received it from above my defense, was kicked flying, blown off to a distance or several hundred meters and rolled on the ground. There is the familiar riverbed. At the place where I and Uncle Bonus first met, I slowly raise my body from the ground with my sword as a support. Guild.cough. Getting in suddenly like that was pretty rude, but well, from now on you have to make an appointment in advance, okay? Though I think asking that of you is just a wishful thinking. Carefreely doing whatever one please is just like you after all. My view is flickering. My thought slows down due to pain. Nevertheless, I don't move my gaze away from the enemy I was looking for. I focus on the sword saint before my eyes. So, what kind of interesting thing did you come up with this time, boy? Gug, cough, cough. Ha tilde? No, it's that, since I prioritized my character level, I want to raise the level of parts that I neglected. You use terms I don't quite understand again. Don't worry, I only want Uncle Bonus to do one thing. And that is, my character level is sufficient. What I lacked is combat experience. In order to take a safe margin, what I required is additional skill and skill level. The message of impact resistance I acquired by surviving after being struck to the ground, and the word of durability +1 that floated like a bubble in my field of vision along with pain earlier gives me energy. The ringing fanfare makes me want to jump in joy even now. The overflowing delight makes me leak out a smile. With a pure smile plastered on my face, I thrust my sword at Uncle Bonus and state my demand. I will continue to attack until I am satisfied, so let's fight. What if you die? It's okay, no worries. I've made various preparations after all. As my smile got wider and wider, Uncle Bonus let out a smile too, pull out the Odaki, extra long sword, on his back with one hand, and languidly lower it without exerting any force. Seeing Uncle who seemingly watching someone who is completely happy from the bottom of their hearts, it might be rude. But I once again realize that for me, this person is not the sword saint but a convenient person, Uncle Bonus. I'd like to convey the joy that is boiling strongly in my heart and share it with Uncle Bonus. But it is regrettable that my cheeks can't raise further, so it can't be helped. With a common iron sword in my right hand, I have a full HP recovery potion in my left hand, which I have purchased in large quantities by using the money I have saved until now. Wrapped around my head is Indomitable Headband. This equipment item has the effect of when you receive a damage that greatly exceeds your own HP upper limit, you can withstand it, leaving you with only 1 horsepower. I don't know Uncle's true strength, but even for argument's sake, he's a sword saint. Even though he died in the main game, since he is a legendary personage, the difference in our true strength will be as different as heaven and earth. So, I prepare items on the premise that I will die with only 1 blow, and have myself continued to be a sandbag until I gain some combat experience. It's a dead race in which I'll keep fighting against the serious sword saint by making full use of the Indomitable Headband and recovery items. If I get over this, I'm sure I'll have even more strength. It's a player's privilege to retry when they died. One of the most powerful bosses is the game's flower. Here, today, tomorrow, every day is leveling. I'll go all out to make my skills level hit counter stop. Once you receive it, whether you lost interest, overworked, got tired, or hurt your back, I'll have you accompany me until I'm satisfied. Uncle we, hi. While my body is cut times and again, while my limbs are about to be cut off, I continue to use recovery items generously and swing my sword so that I can receive even one of the 20 slashes that is cutting across my whole body. When my sword and his sword clashes, what appears in my field of vision along with sparks is experience points. Seeing that, I smile widely and finally start laughing loudly without being able to bear it. Fun. The more I ignore the splattering blood, the more energy overflows from the depths of my soul. Cough. My level goes up. Ha. You sure seem to be enjoying it, boy. That is of course I, who went completely insane and laughed loudly, and Uncle Bonus, who swung his sword happily. That storm of one-sided violence that could not be called a battle continued even after the sun had set. We got one crazy MC here. LVL Chapter 7. Shout out to Thea Macedo for becoming my patron, disciple brother and disciple sister. So tired. Good grief, I was really worked to the bones by that boy. Shoichiro Sanuki, who was done playing and returned to the guild, sat down in the sofa. The table kicked off by Toru Sakurai had been replaced with a new one. On it were prepared the usual alcohol and glass. Sword Saint Dono? Oh? Why are you guys all lurking over here? If you all glare at me so intently, I might squeeze myself in unintentionally, you know. We're not glaring. Rather than that, Who the heck is that youth from the morning? Ah, about the boy. Huh. If I have to say who. The surroundings paid attention to Sanuki when asked by the adventurer, who might have been watching the ruckus in the morning. Sanuki pondered the relationship between himself and the youth while pouring alcohol into the glass. They were acquaintances, but not friends. They were just hanging out because it was mutually beneficial to both himself and the other party. If he had to express him in a few words, the boy was a convenient guy to kill time, but that sounded bland. In that case, there weren't that many words that could express him. All of them were a little out of the essence. But Sanuki chose the one that fit him the most and spoke it. He is my disciple. No, my disciple. Disciple? Is he Higaki-chan's junior disciple brother? No, he is the senior. Maybe what you called the first disciple thingy. We have a kinda strange relationship. Even though I said he's my disciple, I just teach him no more than for killing time. The time I've spent watching him was much longer than young Lady Ao. See, honestly, I can't imagine it. The Sword Saint Ono, who kept refusing to take a disciple and finally reluctantly accepted Higaki-chan's due to her persistence, as first disciple. Even the word disciple is not accurate though. Well, my relationship with that boy sure is strange. A frown appeared on the humorous face of the adventurer as he laughed and drank alcohol. I planned to finish it in a few words, but I ended up talking for very long. It seems that I'm in a good mood. In that case, it would be fun to talk about that boy a little more. Thinking so, Sanuki poured alcohol in the glass, and started talking while swirling the glass. Have you ever been to a museum? Well, a couple of times. That place is amazing, isn't it? Things depicting oneself, that was made by pouring a lot of colors and using all techniques one has polished, lined up side by side. Various works with various taste. They sometimes gave you a realization that had you taken by surprise. Honestly, I don't know painting very well, but I think slighting such ability and value is coarse. And so, there's this one painting. It's a really weird one. I don't know if calling it a painting is correct. But this one looked as if it was painted by hitting the white canvas all over with all one's might without even using a brush. You see, Tilda. So, what do you think of it? It's my personal opinion, but if it's the only one, I get the impression that it is out of sync from the theme of the entire museum. Are you saying that that painting is that boy? Yeah. Aren't you quite good at guessing? Sanuki's mood was getting better and better. A person created a single painting of themselves using abundantly colorful colors through various emotions, experiences, and conflicts. No one has the same painting. All have both interesting parts and disappointing parts. All the people he met throughout his life, whether they were of high-born or low-born, whether good people or wicked people, Sanuki found a certain beauty in them. But you see, for some reason, everyone has the same theme. I'm not saying it's bad, but well, I'm fed up with it. Or perhaps should I say, there are some parts that I'm honestly getting tired of. That theme was to live. However, it was a universal thing that come from the root of each person. It could probably be said that it naturally appeared whether one was willing or not, especially in a world where eat or be eaten was normal like this world. That's something that can't be helped anymore, so there's no other way. It was a boy named Sakurai who appeared when he thought so. Among those I know, only that boy drew a painting just to enjoy, simply because he didn't know such thing as arts, techniques, or tacit rules. He threw only one color he wanted on the canvas, and drew the painting with all his limbs fluttering all over. I was interested in the way it continued to expand without even grasping the direction of what kind of painting he wanted to draw. I wanted to see how it would change if I taught him my technique. And, my heart was beating so fast, unbecoming of my age, wondering what kind of painting it would turn out. I'm surprised at how enthusiastic you are. Rigged. I'm surprised too. That was why I thought of teaching the basic to him, who continued to draw the painting happily, even if it was only when I feel like it. That's why he is my first disciple. My first disciple. When you say it that much, Higaki-chan is kinda pitiful. Young Lady Ao? Well, she was so noisy next to me, while I was appreciating the first, so I had no choice but to keep her company. However, It seems that it led to a fire lit under the boy. Seeing the figure of Sword Saint talking with no interest, the adventurer pitied Higakiao. How attached she was to the Sword Saint, how she admired and yearned for him. Not a few people know it, and some are impressed with her. Perhaps her efforts had paid off, as she finally became his disciple, received his training, and went to the academy to become independent. But the adventurer felt a slight antipathy to the Sword Saint, who said because she was noisy of all things. However, the appearance of the Sword Saint, who talked about his first disciple happily, was like a child who was proud of his favorite toy, erased his ill will. All that was left behind was sympathy for Higakiao, who was faced with indifference by the Sword Saint. But well, she's a strong girl. Since she is girl who treads on her path straightforwardly, there's no need to worry about her. The adventurer, who did not know the muddy feelings under the skin of Higaki, was sympathetic but didn't worried. He refocused on listening to the Sword Saint's words, who had no interest in Higakiao. One person after another entered the circle of conversation of the Sword Saint, who was unusually talkative. For a while, the topic in the lounge was dominated by the story of the Sword Saint's first disciple. LVL Chapter 8, A Clash of Fellow Students. Today is also leveling day. If you swing your sword, a numerical value will come up, and if the numerical value is accumulated, your level will raise. TN. The author wrote numerical value, not exp. Even I, who vowed to take revenge against that shitty bitch, need to rest my mind sometimes. Meaning, having finished harassing her, next, I just sit and wait. Even putting in effort to prepare various things to face her seems stupid, so I'm leveling peacefully like this now. As I thought, this riverbed is my favorite place. Thanks to the people who excitedly leave just by me coming here, I can concentrate on leveling quietly, even though I don't particularly mind it. I wonder why everyone go away. If I have to say, the only thing I was doing was swinging and checking the motion of skills. Speaking of motion check, since the world has become an action game, I recently did various trials and errors, thinking that there may be one or two motion cancellation. As a result, instead of finding some sort of motion cancellation, my action was stuck weirdly, and sometimes I would spin in place and I would fly up to the sky while rotating. It seems that the god of great physics engine leave his trace even in such a different world. Come to think of it, before I checked the motions, it seemed that people were still hanging around here. There's no way that my movements were the cause. I'm sure everyone is used to it because it's a scene that you see quite often when it comes to open world action. Well, whatever. You surprisingly look energetic. Oh? Hey Ao-chan. The one who appear on the riverbed where there's no one but me is Higakiao, who everyone loves. A vein appears on her pretty face, and I can see that she looks so frustrated that she could explode anytime. Her left hand, that is holding the sword that she stole from me, is gripping the sword so powerfully that I thought she wanted to crush it with her hand, which is as white as porcelain right now. What's wrong? For you to have such a sullen face? Whose fault is it? It's working, it's working. Seeing her being angry, I grin and laugh. I have been leveling while getting back at her until today. That is, using the sword master, uncle, that she longs for. I took Uncle Bonus, whose whereabouts I located, every day and night, and use him for leveling. Of course, I ended up causing a ruckus by going to the Adventurer Guild and leaving with Uncle every day. In that case, the topic naturally became who the hell is the person who takes that Sword Saint with him, and perhaps, Uncle got my intention, as he told the people around him that I'm his disciple, spreading my existence. As a result, I was recognized as the first disciple of the Sword Saint Shoichiro Sanuki both in name and reality. Incidentally, as an insurance, I sent a landscape painting depicting the scene of Uncle and I leveling to the chairman of the discipline committee every day. I was just sharing the result of my training with my junior disciple sister. You see, perception training is also a part of training, right? Thanks to that, some of my art skills improved. It's a win-win. Well, if I do such things, she, who obsessed with being the first, will certainly be pissed and decide to come rushing at me, but to think she would splendidly take the bait, I'm really glad. So, do you have a business with me? junior disciple Sister-chan? Your senior disciple, is busy though. Bastard, how dare you shamelessly. Ng, a murderous intent that seems about to burst anytime is contained in her gaze. As I keep poking her complex and rubbing her nerves in the wrong way, it wouldn't be weird for her to hold a murderous intent. Moreover, her murderous intent is neither a threat nor trifling. It is truly a genuine killing intent. To lose control of your murderous intent with just this little bit of provocation, somehow, it is unlike you, junior disciple sister. I'm a bit scared. Well, right. That's right. You can say whatever you want. You've already become a true hindrance for me. You have sullied my path forward, the meaning of my life. But not only that, what I can't stomach is that you even made people think that you are the first disciple. I just corrected the misunderstanding desu. But I made them think so, you say. Wasn't your choice of words a bit misleading? Shut up, shut up. The things I've accumulated so far have turned into nothing because of you. Teacher's back has become so distant. My path to that sword has become so distant. It's all your fault. If only you didn't exist. There are tears in the corners of Higakiyao's eyes, who is screaming with so much force that her face turned bright red. While thinking that it is unfortunate that she didn't direct such passion in a healthy direction, I smile grinningly. Who cares about such thing? However, you came here means you know what will unfold going forward, right? There's only one thing left to do here. As long as you understand. I have asked Uncle to clean up afterwards, so you don't have to worry about anything, okay? Why should teacher? No, enough. Yeah, enough. No matter how much words were said, Higaki and I, who stand in parallel lines in the first place, will not end up in a happy ending such as settlement or the like. For me, she is an unreasonable villainess, and for her, I'm a materialization of an unreasonable and unforgivable existence. Neither of us can nor want to compromise, reconcile, or even make concessions. Settlement is impossible. Therefore, there is other way but to dissolve. I pull out my sword. The weapon I have in my hand is a common iron sword. She pulls out her sword. What she has in her hand is the Sword Saint's sword that she robbed from me. The stance we took is like a mirror image. Both of us sharpen our hostility to each other while synchronizing even the rhythm of breathing. And finally, staring at the opponents, we exchange the last words. You are a nuisance. So, please die. The battle to the death of fellow students and fellow disciples, with a few words that could not be taken back from a couple of youth. An unsightly and miserable battle began. LVL Chapter 9. The biggest enemy is oneself. He has gotten stronger. Higaki swung her sword with fury, but with the reason left in her head. She observed the man in front of her, Sakurai Toru. He was arguably better than herself in terms of basic strength. That was probably the result of the efforts that he had accumulated longer than herself. Every time she saw the battle marks left in the dungeon, she could imagine the battle that took place. That was exactly why she suspected that perhaps he had little personal experience. And she was convinced when they faced each other in reality. So, she decided to snatch the sword on the spot. In this way, Higaki robbed the sword of the sword master, got angry at his acts of retaliation, and it ended up in a life and death battle. TSK. He dealt with her slash without falling for her feint. Their blades collided and rubbed against each other, scattering sparks, thrusts, slashes, strikes. Every single move of hers, all of her attacks that was packed with murderous intentions were repelled by the man before her. What's wrong? What's wrong? Your skills level is lacking. What the heck are you talking about? Even if she tried to dig into the exposed gap, he could respond to it as if it was prearranged. She felt as if her sword was being sucked into his defense. If she couldn't pierce through it, she wouldn't be able to fatally wound or even hurt him. You bastard. On the other hand, it could be said that his attack was a little sloppy. The fact that he got caught in the gap she deliberately exposed meant that part of him didn't change much since the entrance ceremony. Perhaps what he developed in this short period of time was the technique of to not lose. Is his aim a protracted battle? Impudent, 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 impudent. While guessing Sakurai's aim, how he learned the technique, the landscape paintings of him and Sword Saint, came to her mind. and her displeasure index soared to the infuriated degree. The weight of each of her blow increased, and the sparks that scattered and the echoes of the sword's clash became more intense. If the battle became protracted, her stamina, who was inferior in terms of basic strength, would be exhausted first, and she would probably be killed using that gap. Above all, she wanted to kill the vermin before her 1 minute or 1 second sooner to begin with, so she only had one option. Therefore, Higaki didn't spare anything and decided to use all her strength at this moment. What she had to do, and what she wanted to do, those two things matched, and Higaki's sword cladded in flames that cut through the atmosphere. Flame sword, a sword technique taught by the Sword Saint, had appeared. It appeared, Flame sword, a fire attribute sword skill that Higaki from the original game learned. Flame sword. It is a skill that endows fire attribute to one's attack, increasing its damage, and makes it possible to give the abnormal state burning to the opponent. Based on whether the enemy was in the guard state, when the accumulated burning gauge exceeds a certain level, the abnormal state burning is activated. It will continue to inflict continuous damage on the target person. In addition, the burning state has the effect of lowering defense against fire-type attacks, so I better avoid those slashes that come one after another. That said, it's impossible to avoid them all. I predict the next skill that is going to be released from the preliminary movement of Higaki, that is her posture and the movement of her arms and legs, and prepare a skill to overcome it. I, who was engrossed in raising my level and hadn't gained anti-personnel experience, am inferior than everyone in that point. That was proved by how I got my sword robbed. Nevertheless, that experience cannot be acquired overnight, and if the opponent isn't her, I will probably be helpless. However, if it's Higaki Ao, I can oppose her. Exactly because it is her, who was taught by the same teacher, that I can oppose her in this short period of time. In terms of learned techniques and movements, she and I were taught by Uncle Bonus, and we didn't receive training from any other people. That is why I can understand and perceive her habit and stance of when she's going to release a technique. In order to improve the accuracy, I challenged Sword Master, who is the origin of both of our style, and saw and remembered many of his techniques. There is no reason why I can't apply what I've learned from the top, that is him against her. The flame effect is a new Isekai. You dangerous? Do you want to kill me? That's right. The point is that I'm just continuing to wait and see her moves before doing anything. If I make even one mistake, it could lead me to death, so I have to wait for the right chance to deliver the decisive blow. However, I won't be able to survive her attacks unless I use a skill to counter her attack, which means I can't take the best move, evasion. I have burning resistant equipment, but that's not absolute. I haven't experienced receiving any abnormal conditions in this world, so I don't know how it feels. If burning is activated, I might crumble from there. One blow. I only need one blow, so if I can land one hit, I can end this. However, I can't land that blow. There is one tempo delay even though I have grasped the timing hit her in the gap after she released her technique. The cause is clear, but it is extremely difficult to resolve it. Or rather, it may lead to denial of the existence of myself. Shit. The flame is approaching. Every time our blades clashed, the heat of the flame brushing against my skin made me feel like closing my eyelids. However, that is inexcusable. Missing the movement of the opponent is fatal, and above all, because I will miss the log of fire resistance +1, even though it didn't come out when I was burned TN, not the abnormal status 1. Before? Why do you come out only new? Shit, don't laugh, me. You're in the middle of a fight now, but I can deal with it anyway. It's fire resistance, you know. It's a chance to acquire a new skill, you know, and can't I use her to increase its level? No, but you see, Gosh, do your best, don't lose. My reason. Now that it come to this, I have to forcibly use my last resort with the preparation to get wounded myself. The biggest enemy is oneself or something like that. Please put off an event like that for later. LVL Chapter 10. Bonus chapter sponsored by my patrons. Conclusion. Higaki took the difference in basic strength into account, and Sakurai took his own personality into account. The two, who together chose a short-duration decisive battle, slashed to settle the fight in the next move. Roar, flame. The flames projected out of Higaki's flame sword rushed to Sakurai in 8 trajectories. It was one of the skills to swing and fire out the flames that the blade was cladded in. Fire snakes. The fire snakes that approached from all direction while slithering on the ground and contained heat that would burn one's body with just a slight touch was Higaki's sure kill technique. Sakurai knew that it was why he ran forward. In the short period from the moment the flames were swung out until they got on the trajectory of the attack, the flames that were peeled off from the sword drew an arc as though avoiding Higaki. In that moment only, a path was formed in a straight line between Higaki and Sakurai, where the snakes did not pass. The angle and sequence of the sword swing from the attack motion he saw many times in the game were exactly the same as the one before him. Sakurai remembered the movement clearly and in detail even after 15 years. Therefore, Sakurai ran through the visible path to victory without hesitation. I made it. He twisted his body and plunged into the opening of the snakes and grasped his sword tightly. With that momentum, he flicked up Higaki's sword. While looking at Higaki, who exposed her body unprotected, grinding her teeth, he pulled his sword back to his waist and connected it to another skill. It was slash. Although it was just a slash without anything unusual to it, that slash, that it was carried to the extremes, was the perfection of a slash that was only allowed for the Sword Saint and was sublimated to be a skill just by itself. However, even though it was just a normal attack for the Sword Saint, if it was established as a skill in this world, the one who thought up such a thing was an anomaly called Sakurai Toru. Fake Sword Saint's slash allows one to release the Sword Saint's normal attack. It was merely that kind of skill. However, its power was deadly. There was no way Higaki, who was inferior in basic strength, could withstand the slash that Sakurai couldn't withstand. It was no exaggeration to say that the fate of Higaki, who had entered his sword range, was sealed. However, there was no reason for Higaki to give up. She ignored that fate and gripped her sword. Her thought accelerated and the world slowed down. The sound of something popping in the depths of her brain echoed, and the strength to escape the predicament gushed forth in her body. With the overflowing strength, she exerted enough power to pull back the flipped-up sword, but that strength, that removed her muscle strength limiter, ripped her own muscles from the inside. Along with the beast-like roar, she released a 9th fire snake. Sakurai opened his eyes wide due to the thing that did not exist in the game. He was no longer able to avoid nor defend because he already entered the motion of the skill. Sakurai was helplessly swallowed by the fire snake. Seeing that, Higaki let out a smile of victory. The large snake hit the ground directly, exploded and scattered. In the rolling dust cloud, Higaki was forcibly holding up her sword, on guard. 1 second, 2 seconds, and 3 seconds. Higaki, who could not sense any sign of movement, let her sword fall, loosened her stance, and exhaled. Ha. He was strong, but she was stronger. No. She became stronger through the battle against him. The proof was that she was able to release the non-existent 9th fire snake, and with the cleared-up feeling after killing the opponent, a little gratitude came to her mind. He was unpleasant, nauseating. However, he had become a touchstone and a stepping stone for her to approach the Sword Saint's back. Now that she could make this 9th snake, she was able to get one step closer to that sword stroke. When she thought so, she felt like jumping in joy. A silver flash passed through such Higaki's body. It was released from the edge of the curtain of the dust cloud, and it had the same beauty as the blade she longed for. She did not feel any sensation of being cut, be that as it may. Higaki collapsed into the sea of fresh blood that was flowing without stopping. Beyond her astonished gaze, there was a boy, charred, but he stood while seemingly had swung his sword. No way. You're kidding me? She had burned Sakurai to death with the snake for sure. However, Sakurai had released a slash of the Sword Saint after he died. Of all things, if Sakurai was asked, he would have made a hypothesis such as, does the motion that had already executed and wasn't interrupted, would be executed without being cancelled even if the HP was reduced to 0. Even if it was a coincidence, there was at least a path that could be understood. However, that was incomprehensible for Higaki. Because she could not understand it, she could only continue to be surprised. If her new snake was a product of her fighting spirit, that one sword slash was a product of supra-rational. It was hard to believe because it was impossible, but she had no choice but to believe it because it happened before her eyes. Even if she understood it in her mind, her heart couldn't keep up with it, and soon after she comprehended it, her water of life began to flow. Sakurai Toru, Higaki Ao, both had a clash here. Even a fragment of their souls wasn't left behind in their bodies that fell over and left on the riverside. LVL Chapter 11. The True Protagonist. I realized that the world I was born in was the world of the RPG game Frontier Academia when I became aware of my surrounding. The existence of monsters that existed on the outside of the outer wall that covered the city. The existence of adventurers who challenged the other side of the wall for development and to protect the living sphere of humankind. A worldview that was like a modern-era society where magic had developed instead of science. Exactly because it was the game that he played until recently in the memory of his previous life. It was fortunate that he noticed it early. Frontier Academia is an ambitious work sold in two forms, in the game consoles and in the newborn VR device. Even though the story depicted is the same, there are changes in the gameplay due to the difference in point of view. It is a work that has attracted a lot of attention because it gives different impressions from the characters. The story is hard to say to be original even as a flattery, although for people who sought a fresh experience, it could only be rated as a B-grade work at best. I think that the Royal Road story that doesn't miss the key points and could be enjoyed without thinking deeply about it is its good point. In addition, it could be said that the VR version has the potential to be the predecessor of VMORPG, which would be developed in the future. It was the type of game that was highly evaluated in terms of technology. Getting a second life as a Manai Hayato the boy who is the protagonist in such a world. I decided to raise my level early before my enrollment to the academy, considering the future. In the future, if I proceed according to the original, I will have an encounter with a demon within a month of enrollment. Even though it was just the first boss in the game, in this world that has become reality, I better think that I wouldn't be able to retry if I die. I raised my level as much as possible before the academy enrollment, and by the time I entered the academy, which originally started at LV1, I have reached LV18. In the original, the suitable level to fight against the first boss is around 10. If I challenge it with a level that is almost twice of that and together with my comrades, I should be able to win safely. I've got the Gauntlet of Earth Dragon, although I think I put too much importance on defense. It is better to take a safe margin. Hayato, did you say something? Number. We cleared the first layer of the dungeon easier than I expected. That it was a bit of an anticlimax, so I have to focus my mind a little. Hayato is too serious, or rather cautious as usual, isn't he? Tilda. On the way to the school, the one who spoke from next to me is one of the original work's heroines. My childhood friend Akane Ruka. Two side-ups, red hair, a neat face with her eyes and nose arranged in a well-balanced manner. Although her varied expressions give off a determined impression, she possessed an energy that makes people feel her strong charm. She seems to be more mature mentally than me, and she is also good at socializing. It could be said that she is a girl who is not the center of the class, but is secretly popular. It's a matter of life and death, so it's natural. Right? I don't want to go through a painful experience just because a foolish mistake. That's certainly correct, but being too highly strung isn't good either. Relax yourself a little bit. They said that making mistakes as a student is also an experience, right? If I fail, the walls could be broken and the country could be destroyed. And things like that are not things I can say, so I involuntarily let out a depressed sigh. Having seen that, Ruka smiled and slapped my back, saying, "Your fighting spirit is lacking, you know." This is our usual exchange. I'm a physical attacker. Ruka is using mainly magic healing as a sub. I was able to form a party with Ethel-san, who can be entrusted with healing and buff, without a problem. I want to add another physical attacker in order to save combat resources as a comrade. If possible, someone with an attribute attack. She's not here right now, but I have a comrade called Ethel-tina, a female student. She is also one of the original work's heroines. and the sacred magic she wields will be a great force in future battles against the demonkin, especially when dealing with a demonkin who is compatible with an immortal species monster. The difficulty level changes greatly depending on whether she is present or not. Speaking of candidates, the best candidate is Higakiao-senpai. Her firepower is really amazing. Her joining time being late is a problem, but at the beginning of the original work, she didn't belong to a specific party, and she should be acting solo. If I deepen our exchange, she might join early. At least, if I could have her teach me even just the way of walking system of the Sword Saint skill. When I arrive at the classroom while thinking about such things, I notice that the surroundings are noisy. Ruka should have noticed the strange atmosphere as well, as she takes the initiative to talk to a nearby female student, gathering information. Good morning Yashiro-san. It's kinda noisy, isn't it? What's going on? Ah, good morning Akano-chan. Do you know Higaki-san? The chairman of the disciplinary committee. Is it the person who was holding a sword the whole time at the club activities explanatory meeting? Yeah, that's her. Anyway, they said that she fought someone, and she is in critical condition and has been unconscious until now. Huh? Hey, tell me the detail of that story. You are. What's wrong? Hayato. Higakio is in critical condition and has been unconscious until now? I've never heard of such an event. Even if you asked me for detail, I only know about the rumors. They said that she had a problem with a male student and they dueled on the riverbed. Then as a result she was seriously injured and now is bedridden at the hospital. Seriously? What's going on? Hayato, are you acquainted with the chairman of the disciplinary committee? No, just that I heard in the guild some time ago that she is the disciple of the sword master. Wouldn't you be surprised if such a strong person became unconscious? That's rare of you, but if you're curious, why don't we visit her next time? No, it's fine. We're not acquainted, so even if I go, I would probably be turned away at the door. That's so? But being in disciplinary committee sure is hard. I never thought that the academy is so unsafe. It's also strange that nothing is known about the male student, isn't it Tilda? Ruka begins chatting with Yashiro-san just like that. Having said my thanks and slip away from there, I sit in my seat and look up at the sky from the window, though my mind is still in turmoil. It's not only because an event that I don't know happened, but also because there is a possibility that there might be something that will upset the flow of the original work in a place that I don't know. Let's say for argument's sake that a fatal incident occurs to an important character, that might lead to a game over just like that. If it occurs in a place unrelated to me, I might have to avoid it at all costs to overcome this story battle. Should I refrain from raising my level for a while and give priority to communicating with the original work's characters? At least, it might be better to get acquainted with them while remembering the characters that I can contact now and their episodes. I hope that Higakiao would return to the academy safely at least.